Chris Bowen has described nuclear power as risky on at least 4 dozen occasions in the last year. Bowen says Peter Dutton is heading down a crazy and risky path and accuses him of a risky nuclear scam by proposing that Australia should build risky nuclear reactors. Yet Bowen's use of the word risky is confusing. He does not claim that nuclear reactors are unsafe, nor does he use the scare words Chernobyl, 3 Mile Island or Fukushima that were once at the heart of the anti-nuclear argument. In June, the ABC's Radio National's Steve Kinane offered Bowen the chance to explain what he meant.
What about the safety issue? Are you going to try and make out as if they're not safe?
I haven't. Well, when have I done that, Steve?
I'm asking whether you will do that. Because you're stressing, but you're stressing that they're going to be in certain communities, and that almost suggests that
communities.
Those communities.
No, what it suggests, Steve, is that communities deserve to know. That's what it suggests.
Well, it appears that Labor's three-eyed fish campaign was indeed just a joke, as the Prime Minister said it was when he told an interviewer to lighten up in a testy exchange on the ABC in June.
These social media memes put up by some of your colleagues, we'll bring some of them up on the screen now, including from the Assistant Treasurer, Andrew Lee, Three-Eyed Blinky Bill. We've had the Victorian Premier Jacinta Allen using social media to put up posts that have three-eyed fish. Dan Repiccioli, the Labor MP for the seat of Hunter in New South Wales. Again, three-eyed fish, and they go on and on and on. It's all pretty juvenile, isn't it?
Have you got the one with me, Michael, with 3 eyes on the Prime Minister that's been put up by the cheer squad for the coalition on this nuclear fantasy? You can put that up as well. Lighten up, Michael.
Well, it appears whatever energy policy disagreements there might be between Labor and the coalition, there's bipartisan agreement that safety concerns are not an obstacle to nuclear power. Labor's concession has been a long time coming. In the final term of John Howard's government, Labor ran a misleading scare campaign against nuclear energy based almost entirely on exaggerated safety concerns. In April 2006, the 20th anniversary of the Chernobyl incident, Anthony Albanese gave a speech to the Sydney University's Labor Club, describing Chernobyl as one of the most significant disasters of the 20th century. He claimed that up to 4,000 people had been killed, and there have been 4,000 cases of thyroid cancer, mostly in children. Today we'd call that misinformation. If those figures had been accurate, they would indeed be troubling. Almost 2 decades later, however, the claim has not been authenticated. The figures Albanese quoted were drawn from a report published in 2000 by the United Nations Scientific Committee on the Effects of Atomic Radiation. They were derived from computer modelling based on unproven assumptions, not actual recorded deaths. Albanese could have drawn from the same UNSRC report to determine that the number of authenticated deaths caused by the rupture of the Soviet reactor was 30. 2 plant workers died on the night of the accident, and 28 emergency workers died within a few weeks from acute radiation syndrome. A death toll of 30 may be tragic, but it's hardly catastrophic. When anti-nuclear activists talk about the dangers of a second Chernobyl, we should remind them that the first Chernobyl was far from the mighty conflagration that they claim it was. And the only other fatal malfunction of a nuclear reactor was in Fukushima in 2011, when 1 plant worker died from acute radiation syndrome and 2 others died from heart attacks. Nuclear power plants are not without risks, but they should be kept in proportion. Nuclear power plants have generated an estimated 30 petawatt hours of electricity over the last 70 years for just 33 lives. That works at 0.0011 deaths per terawatt hour, which is extremely safe compared to every other form of electricity generation. The record for coal is 24.6 deaths per terawatt hour. For oil, 18.4 deaths, and natural gas, 2.8 deaths. Nuclear power, as I said, 0.0011 deaths. Nuclear is 18 times safer than solar, which was responsible for 0.02 deaths per terawatt hour. It's 36 times safer than wind, more than 1,000 times safer than hydro, and more than 4,000 times safer than biomass. Bowen's capitulation on the safety question shows that facts can overcome feelings even in the post-truth era and even in the modern Labour Party. It offers hope that Labour will eventually set aside its other nuclear furphies and recognise the reality that the only feasible way of decarbonising the grid is with baseload nuclear power. In the meantime, we should remind Mr Albanese and Mr Bowen that more people died as a result of the Hindenburg disaster, 36, than died at Chernobyl and Fukushima combined. The Hindenburg airship, of course, was filled with hydrogen, Bowen's preferred new form of energy technology. And it matters not whether the hydrogen is green, brown, blue, or a fetching shade of pink. Its flammability and explosive qualities remain just the same. Hydrogen has an appalling safety record. The worst hydrogen accident was the Texas City disaster in 1947, which killed 581 people. Indeed, the destruction of the Fukushima plant that allowed the radiation to escape was not caused directly by the meltdown of the reactor. The explosion was caused by a build-up of hydrogen produced by the reaction between the zirconium fuel rods and steam. Had the safety systems worked properly, the hydrogen would have been safely vented and the level of radiation around the plant would have been much smaller. The chance of an explosion in a modern hydrogen plant with all its safety features is small. However, if the left was consistent, which of course it isn't, it'd be sharing YouTube clips of flaming airships rather than memes from The Simpsons.